You're on TV. Welcome to my world.
Today, we have the pleasure to ask Jacqueline Zeidan questions about her campaign. Jacqueline Zeidan, she's running for the House of Representatives for the 15 Congressional District. If she's elected, she'll be the voice of the community, the voice of the Arab American community. As we all know, the Middle Eastern community population is considered one of the oldest, largest, and the most diverse in the Metro Detroit area. Welcome to our show today.
Hi, Hanan, how are you?
Tell me, how was it like to grow up in such a diverse community?
I had the pleasure of, my parents came into the 60s, let me start from there, in the late 60s, and we settled in Southwest Detroit, so I was afforded the opportunity, as well as my entire family, living in Southwest Detroit. So I already started my childhood in a community that was really diverse, right? And fast forward to getting married and moving on and having kids, we moved and settled into Dearborn, and then my kids had the pleasure of living in a community as well that is just as diverse, and in whether it's cultural, faith, whatever it may be. And it's been the most wonderful experience. I call Dearborn, Michigan my hometown, and I use the word hometown because that's what it feels like. When you wake up in the morning and everybody greets each other and you're saying hello, or you're stranded somewhere in the street, you have 10 people stopping to say, can I help you? Or neighbors that'll swing by and say, hey, I just made these cookies, and they give them to you out of their car in the street. So it's been really a pleasure. And I have 3 kids, you know, and even as an Arab American Christian living in Dearborn, and the majority is Arab American Muslims, and we have a mix of obviously all cultures and nationalities. You know, they grew up understanding, as well as I did from my own parents, that you are on this earth to give back and to do the best that you can for all of humanity. And so when I was raised that way, my kids were also raised that way. So you have a household of people that understand very clearly that you respect all, no matter who they are, and you do what you can to make it better. So it's been a positive experience, and I know that I'm going to set forth 3 kids into this world that's going to instill the same thinking and thoughts. So we have to. This earth doesn't belong to one; it belongs to everybody.
Sure,
so yeah.
Sure. You were named after one of the most influential Democratic women, Jacqueline Kennedy. How did that inspire you while you were growing up?
My parents, before they left the Middle East, were from Jordan.
Yes.
And when they came, my dad, obviously you leave coming to America, because back in those days, you know, it was the American dream, and America was the place where you go to make your dreams come true. And they came in, and I believe that they loved the Kennedys before they even came to the United States, because I was named Jacqueline and my brother was named Jack, although you know, John Kennedy was known as Jack. So they named us after the both of them, and it's inspiring. Also, and it's so ironic, I wish I had a picture of my mom and me when we were little, and if you look at my mom, I kid you not, she sort of resembles Jacqueline Kennedy. It's not
No way.
It's weird. And I wish I would have brought the picture with me to prove that I'm not lying. I'm telling you.
This is interesting.
She really just, when I pulled up one of those pictures and I looked, and I'm like, wow, she just sort of made me think of Jacqueline Kennedy. She almost looked like her, but it was really inspiring. I mean, you grow up and then you come to this country, and then you watch your parents. My mother was very influential in the sense of she inspired me. This is a person that spoke very little English, and she engaged the system. You know, she engaged the process. She met people, and I think we're both social butterflies, me and her, maybe.
So you're more like your mom in a way?
My dad was a very quiet person. Yeah, didn't, you know, he was a very humble man, big heart. Allah yarhamah, when he, you know, it's like people talk about him till today. And my mother, let's just say they were such giving people, and they had such a reputation. All the holidays and everybody that came from over, everything was at our house. So that they were very welcoming people. And you saw that all the time in the things that they did. But so she encountered, you know, in her job, she worked, you know, whatever she could do to support the family, obviously her and my father. One of those things was somehow she encountered Miss Irma Clark Coleman. She's a retired senator now, but I don't know exactly what she's up to right now. But that was at the beginning of her career, and my mother engaged her and just talked to her and started helping her and volunteering in whatever little ways she knew how, even though her English was limited, and
she did it anyway.
Yeah, she did it anyway. And I always listen to her tell my kids, you know, Tata, if I went to school and I had an education, and I can only imagine what she could do, but she says that, you know, and I think a lot of my passion towards education really stems from a lot of personal experiences in my life, which drives me to make sure that, you know, education really is never, ever compromised in this country, because, you know, you come here and very clearly, 100% to me, education is a right. It's not a privilege to the few that can afford it.
Sure.
Because if we don't educate properly in this country, we need to be careful, because a totally uneducated society can be a detriment to its own society. So, and we need to be careful that we don't ever compromise that.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's where, you know, she influenced and pushed me to really being the activist and the fighter.
Well, you saw that while you were growing up, so obviously it made
I was
I
was always a troublemaker when I was. So yeah, I was always a troublemaker. In a good way.
In a good way.
In a good way. In a good way.
So what made you decide to run for the House of Representatives?
This has been a long time coming. And I say a long time coming because I could have made this decision many times before. I've had many people approach me, say you should do it, you'd be great at it. And not only just you should do it and you'd be great at it, but they knew that they were sending somebody up there that was going to truly represent them, and that this was an individual, I'm talking about myself, that I had no agendas. And it was truly about bettering our community, making sure that nobody sells us out, making sure that we're never compromised. Although we know that it's crazy up in politics, whether it's in Lansing or in Washington, the rhetoric and the nonsense, you know, is always going to be there. But what you have to make sure and you instill is that you yourself, when you vote on certain things, that you never ever compromise your loyalty, your integrity, and the hard work that you put into a community, but making sure that that voice or that vote that you put in is not yours specifically.
Yes.
But it's that of the majority of the community, and it's because that's their voice that you're representing up there, not your own personal self.
But you were in the public service for a long time.
For a long time,
right?
Yeah. It started, you know, when you get in as a, so we settled in Southwest Detroit. When I got married, we moved into Dearborn, my husband and I. I have 3 kids. The oldest is Laith. He graduated actually. So let me say the rivalry. My husband is a U of M grad from U of M Dearborn.
Okay.
He has a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, right?
Okay.
And then all 3 of the kids are Michigan State grads.
Ah, okay.
So the oldest is, he has a CPA and an accounting degree.
Okay.
He's an accountant and a licensed CPA from, he had his master's from Michigan State. My daughter's public relations and communications.
Okay.
She's actually me on steroids, I call. She's a huge fighter and an activist on so many levels.
So she's like you.
She is like me, and I'm so proud of her, actually. And I want to touch a little bit today on the interview about women and women's roles, actually. But with her, I know that I've done well by all 3 of them. Her specifically, she just got a job offer not too long ago with in a company, and it was pretty. It was a pretty good job offer, and she turned it down because she's been working actually for the past 2 years in the city of Detroit teaching kids, and they needed her right away, but she refused to leave that position because she didn't want to walk away from the kids. So, you know, with my three, life is never about money. It's about the impact that you make on individuals in your lives. So that's why I was really just, I knew she was going to do that because I raised her, but you know. And my third one, he's on his last year up at, also at Michigan State, and he's getting a degree in hospitality business and management. So it was because of them three, those three, that pushed me to do where I'm at, pushed me to do what I have been doing.
So they give you a lot of support, I believe.
Yeah, and it came from me, you know, the obstacles that I ran into in my own life. The one thing that I had in the back of my head was, I never want my children or any other child to run into those obstacles that prevented them from finishing or prevent them from finishing school. Which is why, you know, I sit here today and we compromised and we made sure that we put all three of those kids through school. And for us, because we, you know, it wasn't about the fancy homes or anything like that, it was about making sure they had an education. So all three of them were blessed to say, and they're so grateful. I mean, I have the best kids in the world, that they all graduated with zero debt.
That's good.
Because of, I think in that drive came from, so you understand, when I have a drive for something, I promise you I accomplish it. So those obstacles drove me to that position, and that's what I created, or that's what I accomplished with them. So it led to that, getting into the schools. I ended up with volunteering, and it's been going on ever since.
You mean as in the school as a PTA?
We started as PTA, and then the PTA went from, you know, that first time when my kids were in kindergarten and elementary, I started meeting different people in the community, and in engaging those people, it sort of led me to say, hey, would you help here? I was never a person to say no to anybody. And so, can you help here? Can you do here? Can you volunteer here? And one thing led to another. And it was at that time in their elementary years that led me to a little bit of the political, the Dearborn politics, as they say.
Right.
And I volunteered at the voting polls where people came out and voted. I'd be outside, you know, pushing the Democratic platform, obviously, and candidates or what have not, because I am a Democrat.
Yes.
I'm running as a Democrat. So, I ran into three individuals, actually, that I encountered that I sort of attribute also, they inspired me, actually, to be a part of the Dearborn politics. And I have to say, Vince Bruno, Morris Goodman, and my fighter on the polls is Ali Dagger.
Oh, tell us about him.
Yeah, and they just, Morris Goodman and Vince Bruno were icons in the city of Dearborn when it came to politics. And they really were the foundation of a lot of things that happened there. So I had the honor and the privilege of working with them through those years. Sadly to say, you know, we lost both of them not too long ago. One, Morris, and Mr. Bruno we lost quite a while ago. And Ali and I are still side by side fighting all the, whatever we can do to get the message out regarding voting and the politics of, you know, whatever elections are out there. So
but obviously they had a lot of impact.
Yes, they really
a
really
big
did.
impact on you.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's you know, it's there. We've been doing a lot of stuff ever since. I've gotten involved in a lot of different organizations. I started off with we have it's called the Aviation Subdivision Neighborhood Association. We had, I'm a small business owner myself, so I understand
I want to ask you about that.
I understand the complexities and the good and the bad of as a small business owner. I've been a precinct delegate. And
you've been an Arab liaison for the last
community liaison
for the last 20
years.
Yes,
20 years, and then you're talking about I'm on the executive board of the Dearborn Democratic Club.
Yeah.
I'm the third vice chair of the Arab American Caucus.
Yes.
The Arab American Democratic Caucus. PTA and, probably so many other things that I can't even think of. The ADC,
Yeah.
Which is the Arab American Discrimination Association. They had a greater chapter. I was on their board. So all those things led to where I'm at today. And,
Yes.
the involvement with all that stuff led me to the activist that I am today.
That's good.
Yeah, so
if elected, what would be your first, top priorities, as a member of the House,
I put them in this order for a couple of reasons. Obviously, civil rights is always very important, and I feel like civil rights sort of leads to everything else, because without that umbrella of that, your civil liberties not being protected, everything else falls apart. So to me, civil rights, education, the economic development is also important, because without being educated, how do you move forward?
can't move
How do you
forward.
develop economically without an educated society?
Yeah.
So and women's rights and our unions are very important. Our unions are in jeopardy right now with a lot of the things that are going on with the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Just some crazy stuff that's going on with that, but we'll leave it at that. And then, there's a lot of other things. You're talking about immigration, that's a great, that's also in jeopardy right now. There's a lot of things that are going on that are very important. So there's so many issues.
There's so many issues, yeah.
And you're going to get up there, are we going to create miracles? Who knows what goes up there. What I can promise you that the voice of the people will be up there. I will carry that with me. That's what I can promise up there.
Well, let's talk about education. They say one way to improve education is to cut the bureaucracy and the red tape.
Yeah.
I mean, just for, because it makes it difficult for principals and teachers to make choices.
Sure.
So how do you propose doing that?
It was years ago, I sat in they did almost like a hometown, town hall type conversation. It was actually in Dearborn at the Civic Center, and at the time, actually, Miss Irma Clark was there at the time, and there was a panel of people from Lansing that came in, and they had a whole panel up there, and they were talking about, and that was at the time when things started shifting and changing in education.
Yeah.
And regulations and things kept coming down. And
But do you think regulations are too complex and bureaucratic?
It depends. You can't sit here and say, okay, well, we want teachers to do A, B, C, and D. Then you give it to them. And then these teachers start doing A, B, C, and D. And then the kids learn it.
Yes.
And now you come back and we need to change it again.
Yes.
So I clearly remember sitting there listening to all this stuff that was going on in the conversations that were going on. And I finally said to them, I said, You're telling them to do all this, and every single time you're switching it up. And the minute students are learning it, you're coming back and changing it.
So it's a bit confusing.
Yeah, what happened to just the simplicities of ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and let these teachers learn, and let these teachers teach, and let these kids learn. And sadly, it's continuing to go in the wrong direction, because the system is broken when I've never, and actually I was driving down the highway and it sort of caught my eye, and I was like, oh my God, it just caught my breath, was a billboard that was advertising for substitute teachers.
Oh.
So, and I've never seen that. And I thought, and as I was driving, I passed and I thought, wow, we're advertising for substitute teachers right now because we can't get people to come into the field. People don't want to teach anymore. And that's dangerous.
It is.
It's very dangerous. And the other part of it is when you talk about charter schools, and it needs to be, charter schools and all this stuff needs to be looked at a lot more closely, because when you have charter schools and people are teaching for profit, then that's a problem. There's nothing wrong with opening up a school and you're doing it for the right reasons. But when you're opening and closing schools left and right, then something's wrong with that.
Something's wrong.
Education should not be a for-profit industry. There should not be, you should not be in education just to make money. And if it's all about the money, then we lost the realities of what education is all about.
Absolutely.
And So that's, and then the college level, that's a whole nother ball game too. There's so many things as a parent with
Like,
college.
you're talking about like student loans or
Yeah, student loans, you're graduating with so much debt, and yet we're bailing out banks, right?
yep.
We're bailing out banks, but we're telling students that are, coming out of college, you have to pay so much on the
But it's a
interest rate.
major
Yeah.
issue for the
Yeah.
children.
Or you're sitting in a counseling office and you're watching high school kids, running around trying to fill out applications, and they're desperately trying to find, can I get a waiver? Can I get a waiver for a registration fee? Because you have to register online
Yes.
to apply for college, right? You have to pay a fee to apply.
Yes.
Why? So those are some of the things I think we need to reevaluate some things and make sure that we're not just, for profit.
Yes.
And we're penny pinching parents and students for every little thing. One of my biggest pet peeves is books in college, right? So my oldest went to college, and his first year he's done, the second one comes in, right?
He cannot use them.
So I'm like, can you just, your brother took that class. You remember
can't
when your
use
brother
it.
took that class? Can you just, why don't you use his book? I can't use it. So now you're spending another $200. And the fact that books are costing $200-300. So I really want to see if we can open up the doors to conversations about maybe just looking into things like, looking at things like that. And the other thing is you talk about
And I want to ask you about
Yeah.
something as far as the education, and we're talking about, like, especially in the community, in the Arab
Yeah.
community, we have the language barrier between parents
Sure.
and children. And how do you get those parents to get more involved in their children's education?
It's been difficult sometimes, actually, but I think what we've been so blessed with in Dearborn is Dearborn has done a wonderful job in the sense of managing, and they've been fiscally responsible, and we've done some amazing work in Dearborn. Even to the point of we have this 5-year college career program where you do your 4 years of college, and then you have one more year where you finish off in college your last year. And when you're done, you graduate with your high school, and then you continue on. You walk away with a 2-year degree, a 2-year associate's degree, and we pay for the books. So there's a lot of
Which
little,
is a good
which is a lot of little things
Yes.
that we're doing. So Dearborn has done a phenomenal job in that sense. Now, when it comes to the language barriers, we've also been very cognizant and very compassionate on a lot of things. For example, bringing in liaisons, right? So what I found, and I made it very clear to them at one presentation one time that we did to the board, we tried to describe what we do all day long, right? What I think is very critical is that when you have and we get a lot of new people coming in from overseas, by the way. We're literally registering 3 to 4 people almost every day.
But don't you encounter a lot of problems?
Sure, we're encountering emotional, mental. We're encountering, culture, changes. There's a lot of things that we're encountering, and we've been handling it really well. And I think part of the reason is because they are coming from the Middle East, because Dearborn is the
Yes.
majority of them is Middle Eastern. Having them walking into my office or somebody's office that speaks their language or understands their culture sort of gives them a little bit of that comfort. And so that's what I think we are, breaking the barriers on that.
Yes.
And always educating them. Now, there's some things that we have to teach them in the sense of, back home, an educator to us back home, they're like up here, they're
Yes.
so highly respected. And you questioning them,
Yeah.
you can't do that. Or if you walk into the school and say, can I help, or what can I do, that sort of comes off as, a taboo, right?
Yes.
Whereas here, we want them to come in. So they're learning to understand that it's okay to come in, it's okay to question.
And to comfort them.
To comfort them and to make it feel comfortable. I've noticed a completely different change.
Yeah.
Now, we get parents that walk in, hey, I'm here, I just want to check my students' progress.
And it's perfectly fine.
We still have a long way to go.
Yeah,
We still have
yeah.
a long way to go, but we're constantly working on it.
But do you have like, is there like special programs? I
Yeah,
mean,
so
those
for example, the
children?
PTA and myself is
Yeah.
responsible. We do monthly workshops, actually monthly meetings, and in those meetings we have workshops. So we bring all kinds of things. For example, we can bring in people that are, for example, how to be college ready, financial aid advice. We've brought in drugs 101. We've brought in parent 101, how to help parents.
And it's been helpful.
Yeah, we get a nice crowd of people.
Yeah.
We want more, but you know, at the high school level, kids want you to stay away from them.
So you get like volunteer people to do these jobs?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of anything that we do like that for myself, that PTA stuff is volunteer.
Okay.
And we have amazing parents in our community that step up and
They're willing to
and
help.
They're willing to help. Absolutely.
That's great.
And you know, we're very generous too. So they're always there to help out and pitch in.
That is great.
The other thing I want to touch on a little bit
Yes.
is the when you talk about in relation to legislation and people that have a language barrier.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is for legislators to understand that when you're testing kids, right, and you have a child that grew up here and a child that just came here, sometimes it's unfair to, you know, and you
Yes.
have to, we need to find ways to sort of
So
accommodate.
how do you do that? How?
You know, I've been hearing some things that have been going on that they're looking into that, but before it's so hard because now you're testing kids, they're all being tested, right? And then you bring in the data and you know, it's sort of skewed some ways, and we're hoping that maybe we can shed some more light on that. I know that there's individuals in our community that are working hard to sort of bring some changes to
hopefully
that,
we'll
to
get
bring
there.
some balance
Hopefully.
and fairness
Yes.
to the
Yes.
numbers. So.
And as far as the old generation, how do we get in our community? How do we get to get them assimilated more and be part of the American society?
I'm hoping that people in our community, as well as myself, I'm always talking to individuals, whether it's at events or whether it's at a mosque or at the church or wherever it may be, right? So you're always talking, and it's not just us. There's there's people that are frustrated at the system and they don't want to be a part of it.
Yes.
Whether you're an American or an immigrant or wherever, but you can still won't become a part of the process. Some don't want to be a part of the system.
Some people refuse.
Some people
to
refuse
learn.
because out of anger.
Yes.
Some don't understand the system. Some are intimidated by. So you have to find out, you know, in conversations.
Yeah.
You know why, and it's people like us, you know, leaders in our community and individuals that are actively involved. It's our responsibility to make sure that we tap into conversations and find out, you know, who's who and what's what and how people are thinking and to educate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And some people, they think that there are not a need to learn because we have Arabic doctors, we have all the services in Arabic too, so they feel like there is no need. And
Yeah.
I mean,
You get comfortable. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You do. You get comfortable sometimes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and you're constantly, and you know, nobody would ever. You have to work on it.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, I know what you're saying. You do get a little bit comfortable, but I was talking to an individual, an older woman that is a friend of mine, actually, and she doesn't vote. You know, she's registered and everything like that, and I walked up to her a couple years ago and I said to her, "So are you registered?" Yeah. Did you vote? No. Hardly. This year I went up to her again and I said, "Shoo, did you vote?" And she goes, "No, listen, I'm so tired of the system and I don't want to hear it and I'm so disgusted with all of them, even from the top to the bottom," right? And so I said to her, I says, "But you can't be mad at the president either. I mean, you have to understand." So we literally, whether it's Republican or Democrat, you have to understand how it works. So we sat down and we had a conversation and I broke it down for her, and she was like, "Oh, now I get what you're saying." So whatever the president, whoever is there, they can't do nothing unless they, they're supported by their, their party. And so
we have to emphasize about voting and how important it is, for the community to vote.
And then we have to empower them too. You have to encourage them. I've encountered things like, for example, working the polls that I do every year, right? So people walk in and, you know, you're standing there handing out, you know, the information that you have, right? And a couple of times I've had people going in and they come back and I said, good job, you know, I'm so proud that you voted, right? And they're like, well, I couldn't vote. I'm like, what do you mean you couldn't vote? And the reason I tell this story, because I know it's going out to our community, they wouldn't allow him to vote because he didn't have his ID, right?
Okay.
So that's what he thought. And I said no. And this didn't happen one time. This has happened on numerous occasions. So I took him right, I says, come right back with me. I said, we walked right back in there. And I said to them, I said, why was he not allowed to vote? And they said, well, he didn't have his ID. I said, I'm sorry, he doesn't need his ID. I said, give him that affidavit. So basically, there's a piece of paper there. If you don't have your ID with you, and I want people to understand, if you don't have your ID with you,
you can still vote.
They can see, as long as your name is on that list, and they can see that you sign that affidavit and you can vote. I said, give him the affidavit, let him sign.
But they didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know what I wasn't there at that moment.
Yeah.
All I know is that he didn't vote.
But it's good to know. That's a good.
So
that's good
and so for
information.
me, the antagonist that I am sometimes, but I went in when I go vote. They'll ask for my ID and I say I don't have it, although I do, but I don't give it to them on purpose.
Just to see what they're gonna do.
Yeah, because you know, if we're gonna start talking about IDs and what I don't like is right now there's a lot of things happening to prevent people of minorities and people in from voting, and that shouldn't happen in the United States. Listen, our military. Men and women have died in other countries to make sure democracy and freedom and the ability to vote in other countries is there. We're going to compromise it here. I mean, that's crazy.
It is.
So, so hopefully that
will change.
That's very important. Yeah, it really is. Make sure you get out and vote. It is not. I can't even express how important it is to get out and vote and to have our voices heard. So
absolutely. We want to talk about women empowerment now. How do you empower the women in the community? Do you have like a strategy, to work on to improve the quality of life for women?
It's been amazing. It's been an amazing ride. We have some amazing women, not only in Dearborn but across the communities here in Michigan. And we have Arab American women and leaders that actually have organizations right now that are involved and that are out there educating and empowering our women and our young women.
That's great.
I'm so proud of actually, even in the school that I work at, we've been empowering girls and educating parents that it's okay for your daughters to go away to college. It's okay for your daughters to go to college. And we encounter a little bit of that sometimes where, a daughter goes to high school and it's not as bad as it used to be, obviously.
So you think they're more open now to these ideas?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I have to tell you, we have this young girl who graduated from the school that I work at. She was the first to get accepted to Harvard from the school that we were at, although all three of the high schools are doing a phenomenal job. They're getting accepted by top Ivy League schools across the country every year in big numbers, right? So we just found out that one of the girls is going to be, this is her 4th year, she's graduating from Harvard, and she's giving the commencement speech at her graduation.
Wow.
And that's huge.
That is huge.
And her name is Miriam Jullo. And I've known her and her parents. I get goosebumps thinking about that.
That's something to be proud of.
Like it just, when we seen and heard that, we were all ecstatic in the community. So Miriam is going to be giving the commencement speech at Harvard University.
That is amazing.
And
amazing.
I'm hoping that we can create like a watch party or something to be able to see that in the community.
Yes.
So we'll see how that works.
Yes, yes.
But I think her where she went and where she's at right now really empowered a lot of our young girls. My daughter being one of them. Actually, when my daughter went away to college, my mother almost like, "How are you going to send her away to college?" I said, because I have to. Because I have to. And she grew and empowered herself doing
And they
that.
learn to be independent.
Well, look at
you know?
yourself. And look at me, we can't, we really, it's okay for us to be out there. And we're just as smart and intelligent as, and capable and as anybody else. I mean, that's not even up for discussion. It feels weird to even justify it.
Yes, yes.
Right? So-
And as far as equality, I mean, for like pay, like, salaries, this is a big
Yeah.
thing because always women
We need to educate the Republican Party on that one.
make less money than men
Yeah.
for the same
Yeah.
job.
For the same job.
Yes.
And in 2016, you sit here and you think, oh my God, that shouldn't even be a question, right? And in 2016, when you're listening to some of the stuff that's coming out of the Republican Party,
Yeah.
you're like, you just shake your head, like you can't even imagine. And women, even in healthcare, right? We have the right to make our own choices. We have the right to make our own decisions. It is not you that is going to tell me what to do. And it really is hard for me to sit here and look at, I was on the news not too long ago, a panel of legislators, all men, making decisions about us as women. I mean, like,
And they can.
where does that, in 2016, how does that happen? Which is why I really tell women to, if you really if you have the power to want to run, do it, because we need to get more women in office. We really, really do. And I hope that happens in 2016 and beyond. And maybe we can start breaking the glass ceiling here in the Arab American community for women.
We hope so. Definitely, we hope
yeah,
so.
so
What qualifications or new ideas, would you bring to the state?
Well, I have one idea in mind that I sort of came at 3 o'clock in the morning while my brain wouldn't shut off, right? So you talk about this seat, and this seat, like I said very clearly, doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the community and to the people, right? So one of the things I was considering what would be great, and it sort of stemmed from, as a PTA person, right? For years you do these monthly meetings with parents and everything.
Yes.
Why can't you do take that same concept and bring it to Lansing? For me, I don't know about anybody, but me specifically in that position that I will be in, you have every stakeholders involved. For example, teachers, parents, unions, healthcare industry. What else is there? Small business owners that are also, have a setup where once a month, and you rotate these discussions and things that are happening up there, they can come up and meet with you, or you go meet with them wherever it may be, those that are interested, and you have those discussions and you take that input from them. So it's more of a think tank, more of a task force kind of thing, where people of certain groups, stakeholders that will come in and we have those discussions. I really want to create that format up there.
Like give and take,
Just bringing in the ideas
Yes.
and then even engaging in the conversations. Hey, this is what's happening for small business owners. I want to let you know A, B, C, and D, right?
Yeah.
Or for teachers or for unions. And what do you think, what should we do as a community or as team players together? What is it that we should do to make decisions on these issues?
Yes.
How do we want to go forward as a community?
Sure.
And that's the one thing I'm going to name it. I'm going to brand it. I don't know how it's going to look, and I know how it will look. I just want to give it a name and sort of create that.
And wish you luck on that.
I hope so. I really, it just can't, it's just something that I thought of, and I thought, what a great idea, and it's a way to engage the community and bring their ideas and their thoughts into the process. So.
Sure. Absolutely.
So,
Okay. And any final thoughts? Anything would you like to address the public with today?
nothing other than, 20 years into this community, I can honestly say I'm comfortable saying that I am the only one that is running that can say I came into this community 20-something years ago, 23, 24 years ago. I have been here ever since. I have gone nowhere else. I have fought for this community. I'm not a showboater. I don't do things to put the spotlight on me. That's not me. It's all about just making a difference, making an impact. And on August 2nd, I hope that everybody comes out, and I hope that when they go into that booth,
hope so too.
They push the lever or color in that little circle that says Jacqueline Zeidan for state rep.
We hope so.
And like I said, I hope I make them proud. I think that after 20 years, you don't just run for office, you have to
Yes.
earn it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope that I've earned everybody's respect, and I hope I worked hard enough to be able to be put in that position. So August 2nd,
August
Jacqueline
2nd,
Zeidan.
August 2nd.
August 2nd, Jacqueline Zeidan for state rep in
Wow.
Dearborn's, Michigan, House District 15.
Yes.
So-
Well, Jacqueline Zeidan, you are in for an auspicious and marvelous start, and a
Thank you.
promising start.
I hope so. I
And
hope so.
from MEA, we wish you the best of luck, and we would like to have you back
Thank
here
you.
for
Thank
sure.
you.
And thank you, and you have a great day, okay? And
Hanan,
good luck.
Thank you, Hanan, so much. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for everybody and everybody that's helped in the fundraiser. There's so much thank yous
Yes.
that have to go out, and I'm so humbled and I appreciate it.
And we like to help always.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
أعزائي المشاهدين، كنتم مع المرشحة لعضوية مجلس نواب ولاية ميشيغان السيدة جاكلين زيدان. شكرا لحسن المتابعة وإلى اللقاء.
You're on TV. Welcome to my world.